Elena Brooks sent a text begging for $50 to feed her starving baby. One wrong digit changed everything. The message landed in the hands of Nathan Cole, a billionaire who hadn't helped anyone in years. What he did next shocked her, but what she uncovered inside his company nearly destroyed them both. This isn't a fairy tale. This is a story about survival, secrets, and a conspiracy hidden in plain sight. If you want to know how a single mother brought down a corrupt empire, stay until the end. Hit like, drop your city in the comments, and let's dive in. The apartment was dark, not by choice, but by consequence. The power company didn't extend sympathy, and Elena Brooks had run out of excuses 3 days ago. She sat on the cracked linoleum floor of her kitchen, knees pulled to her chest, a threadbare blanket wrapped around her shoulders. The refrigerator hummed its final breath before going silent. Another bill she couldn't pay. Another failure in a long line of them. From the bedroom, the crying started again. Sharp, piercing, relentless. Ethan, her 8-month-old son, her entire world. And tonight, she had nothing left to give him. Elena pressed her palms against her face, trying to steady her breathing. She had been rationing the formula for 2 days, watering it down until it was little more than a pale ghost of nutrition. Tonight's bottle had been mostly tap water. Ethan knew. Babies always knew. She stood up, her legs stiff from sitting too long on the cold floor, and walked to the counter. The empty formula canister sat there like an accusation. She picked it up, shook it. Nothing, not even dust. Her phone sat beside it, screen cracked, battery at 11%. Elena stared at it for a long time. She had one option left. One person who might help, her cousin Danny. He had loaned her money before. Not happily, not kindly, but he had done it. She didn't want to ask again. She didn't want to hear the disappointment in his voice, the judgment that came with every favor. But tonight wasn't about pride. Tonight was about a baby who didn't understand why his stomach hurt. With shaking hands, Elena picked up her phone and opened her messages. She scrolled to Danny's name. Her thumb hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed, "Danny, I'm so sorry to bother you again. I need $50 for formula. Ethan's almost out. I get paid Friday. I'll pay you back, I promise. Please." Her thumb trembled as she hit send. She didn't double-check the number. She didn't even look at the name. She just dropped the phone onto the counter, pulled the blanket tighter, and waited. 5 minutes passed. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it, heart pounding, and read the message. "I think you meant to send that to someone else." Elena's breath caught. She looked at the contact name. Not Danny. A number she didn't recognize, 1 digit off. Her stomach dropped like a stone. She had just begged a complete stranger for money. Humiliation flooded through her, hot and suffocating. Her hands shook as she typed back. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Please ignore that. Wrong number." She locked the screen, tossed the phone aside, and dropped her forehead to her knees. Another failure, another mistake. Another reminder that she was one bad decision away from complete collapse. Ethan's cries grew louder. Elena forced herself to stand. She walked into the bedroom, picked him up from the crib, and held him against her chest. He was warm, small, fragile. His tiny fists curled into her shirt as he wailed. "I'm sorry," she whispered, rocking him gently. "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm trying." She had been trying for 8 months. Ever since Marcus walked out, ever since she realized she was completely alone. Marcus hadn't wanted a baby. He'd made that clear the moment she told him she was pregnant. He'd stayed long enough to sign the lease on this terrible apartment, and then he'd vanished. No calls, no money, no apology, just gone. Elena had tried to make it work. She'd taken every shift the diner would give her. She'd clipped coupons. She'd applied for assistance programs that moved slower than glaciers. She'd done everything right, and still, she was here, on the floor, in the dark, with nothing left. She didn't cry when Marcus left. She didn't cry when the car got repossessed. She didn't even cry when the landlord threatened eviction. But this quiet, desperate moment broke her. Her phone buzzed again. Elena froze. She looked at the screen. A new message from the same unknown number. "Is your baby going to be okay?" She stared at the words, read them twice, 3 times. What kind of stranger follows up like that? Her first instinct was to block the number. to delete the conversation and pretend it never happened. But something about the question, about how simply it was asked, made her pause. This wasn't mockery. It wasn't pity. It was just concern. Elena sat down on the edge of the bed, still holding Ethan. She typed back slowly. "We'll manage. Sorry again." She hit send. Then she waited. The reply came almost immediately. "I can help. No strings." Elena scoffed out loud. She shook her head, muttering to herself. "Sure. No strings. Right." She typed back quickly. "Thanks, but I don't take money from strangers." A pause. Then, "Smart policy. I'm Nathan. Now I'm not a stranger." Despite everything, despite the exhaustion and the fear and the bone-deep weariness, Elena felt the corner of her mouth twitch. Almost a smile. Almost. She didn't reply. She couldn't. Instead, she rocked Ethan until his cries softened into hiccups, then into grunts. She laid him back in the crib, tucked the thin blanket around him, and sat on the floor beside the crib, watching him sleep. Her phone buzzed again. Elena looked at it. Her hand moved before her mind could stop it. She opened the message. "Tell me what kind of formula he needs. I want to send more. Not money. Supplies." Elena's throat tightened. She typed, then deleted. Typed again. "Only if it's really no strings." The reply was instant. "I don't do strings. Strings are for people playing games." Elena sat there for a long time, staring at the screen. Then, finally, she did something she never thought she'd do. She sent him her Venmo username. 3 seconds later, her phone vibrated. $5,000 received from Nathan Cole. Elena sat frozen. She blinked twice, opened the app, checked again. $5,000. She typed with shaking fingers. "This is too much. I only needed $50. "It's already yours. No catch. One less thing to worry about." Elena's vision blurred. She hadn't cried when she got laid off. She hadn't cried when they repossessed her car. She hadn't cried when Marcus ghosted her after finding out she was pregnant. But this broke her. Her hand shook as she typed. "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just take care of Ethan." And then she noticed it. She never told him her son's name. 3 blocks away, on the 60th floor of the Axiom Tower, Nathan Cole stared at the confirmation screen on his phone. The penthouse was silent. It always was. The floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the city below. Endless lights, endless noise, endless motion. But up here, it was just him, alone. Nathan didn't give out his private number, not to business partners, not to colleagues, not even to family, because he didn't have any left. His younger sister had died 15 years ago. Pneumonia. She was 12. Their mother couldn't afford the antibiotics. Nathan had been 17, working 3 jobs, trying to keep them afloat. He'd begged the pharmacist, offered to pay in installments, promised anything. The pharmacist had said no. Lily died 3 days later. Nathan built his empire on the memory of that refusal. He swore he'd never be powerless again. He'd never beg. He'd never need anyone. And he hadn't. Not for 15 years. Until tonight. When a stranger's desperate text landed in his inbox, something inside him cracked. He saw his mother's face. He heard Lily's cough. He remembered what it felt like to hold someone you loved and know you couldn't save them. So he sent the money. Not because it was charity, because it was penance. His phone buzzed. "Why are you really doing this?" Nathan stared at the question. Most people who messaged him wanted things. Partnerships, investments, favors, influence. This was the first time in years someone asked him why he cared. He told her the truth, or at least part of it. "Because I know what it's like to lose someone you can't save, and because no child should ever feel that kind of pain." There was a pause, then, "I don't want your pity." Nathan's jaw tightened. "It's not pity, it's recognition." Another beat of silence. Then her next message appeared. "I want to pay you back." Nathan leaned back in his chair. She didn't ask for more. Didn't hint at needing a job or rent or anything else. She was still holding her pride with both hands, even while drowning. He respected that more than he expected. For what? For the formula, for the kindness, for not ignoring me. Nathan exhaled slowly. Tell me what kind of formula Ethan needs. I want to send more, not money, supplies. The reply came quickly. Only if it's really no strings. I don't do strings. Strings are for people playing games. He set the phone down and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, a mother was holding her son. And for the first time in 15 years, Nathan had done something that mattered. Elena couldn't sleep. Even after Ethan finally drifted off, his breathing slow and steady, she sat wide awake on the edge of her mattress, holding her phone like it might vanish. She opened the banking app, refreshed it, $5,000. Still there, still real. She reread the messages, studied every word, looked for the catch, the condition, the hidden price she'd have to pay later. But there was nothing. Just a stranger who called himself Nathan and a transfer that had no strings attached. People don't just send thousands of dollars to strangers. At least, they never had to her. Elena opened a new browser tab. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed, Nathan Cole. The results loaded. The first image made her breath catch. A man in a dark suit walking out of a Senate hearing. His face was sharp, controlled, unreadable. His eyes looked like they'd seen too much and trusted too little. The headline beneath the photo read, Nathan Cole, CEO of Axiom Industries, net worth $14.3 billion. Elena's hands went cold. This wasn't just some generous stranger. This was him, the billionaire who owned half the patents in AI medicine. The man reporters called the ghost mogul because he avoided interviews like they were contagious. There were only 3 official photos of him online, all serious, unsmiling. One showed him walking out of a federal building with cold eyes and a clenched jaw. The man didn't just live in another world, he built it. So why was he texting her? Why did he send $5,000 to a woman with no job, no car, and a leaky roof? Elena clicked back to the message thread. She stared at his last text. Just take care of Ethan. It didn't sound like a billionaire. It sounded like someone who'd been close to starving and never forgot it. Her fingers moved before she could stop them. Why are you really doing this? She hit send, then she waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Her heart sank. Maybe he regretted it. Maybe he realized she wasn't worth it. Her phone finally lit up. Because I know what it's like to lose someone you can't save. And because no child should ever feel that kind of pain. Elena stared at those words, stunned. They weren't transactional. They weren't poetic. They were just true. And they hurt. She typed back slowly. I don't want your pity. It's not pity. It's recognition. Elena leaned her head back against the wall and closed her eyes. There was a beat of silence between them. Then her phone buzzed again. Do you work? The question hit like a jab. Elena almost didn't respond. Finally, she typed, I did. Until Ethan came and the company folded and the daycare I could afford shut down. So no, not right now. What was your field? Elena hesitated. Biochem research, mostly diagnostics. I interned at Novagen before things got complicated. There was a pause. Then, you were in research? Yeah, but I also know how to scrub toilets, make lattes, and calculate taxes I can't afford to pay. She didn't expect a reply to that, but he surprised her. Come by Axiom tomorrow, 11 a.m. Ask for Rebecca. No strings, just a conversation. Elena blinked. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance to take one back. The next morning, Elena woke before her alarm. Not to Ethan's cries, but to silence. The kind of silence that felt heavy. She checked his crib. Still asleep. Arms overhead. Lips pursed into a tiny frown like he was busy negotiating with his dreams. She made coffee in the kitchen sink. The bathroom faucet had started leaking again, but she hadn't called maintenance. She didn't want strangers in her space. Not now, not when she was part of something she barely understood. By 7:30 a.m., there was a knock on her door. Elena froze. No one ever knocked. Not here. The landlord texted. Her neighbors barely looked her way. She walked to the door quietly and peeked through the peephole. Delivery truck. Uniform. Driver holding 4 massive boxes. She opened the door slowly. Delivery for Elena Brooks? She nodded mutely. Signature here. She signed. The driver stacked the boxes inside her apartment and left without another word. Elena stared at them. Then she began opening them one by one on the living room floor, hands trembling. Formula, diapers, baby wipes, bottles, organic puree packets, even clothes. Not cheap off-brand either. The kind of stuff you only saw on Instagram moms with perfect lighting and too much free time. At the very bottom was a small envelope. She opened it slowly. He should have what he needs. Ethan deserves better than barely getting by. Nathan. There was no logo, no return address, no way to trace where it had been ordered from, just a signature she didn't recognize from a man she hadn't even seen. But she felt it in her chest. This strange, uncertain warmth that sat somewhere between gratitude and suspicion. Who was this man? And what did he really want? Bob. Elena didn't touch the boxes again for hours. They sat in the corner of the living room like a dream she didn't want to wake from. Ethan had fallen asleep in her arms after a warm bottle, his first full one in 3 days, and she hadn't moved since. She just sat there, staring at her son's chest rising and falling, wondering what kind of world she just stepped into. She wasn't naive. People didn't do things like this. Not without a catch, not without a camera rolling. But there was no viral video, no receipt, just silence, and that name again. Nathan. Not exactly common. Elena reached for her phone and opened a browser. She hesitated. She didn't want to know, but she had to know. She typed Nathan Cole. The results loaded faster than she was ready for. Nathan Cole, CEO of Axiom Industries, net worth $14.3 billion, private tech mogul, former military. Media shy, widowed, no children. Her stomach flipped. This wasn't just some generous stranger. This was him. The billionaire who owned half the patents in AI medicine. The one reporters called the ghost mogul because he avoided interviews like the plague. There were only 3 official photos of him online. All serious. Unsmiling. One showed him walking out of a Senate hearing with cold eyes and a clenched jaw. The man didn't just live in another world, he built it. So why was he texting her? Why did he send $5,000 in baby supplies to a woman with no job, no car, and a leaky roof? Elena clicked back to the message thread. She stared at his last text. Just take care of Ethan. It didn't sound like a billionaire. It sounded like someone who'd been close to starving and never forgot it. She typed, hesitated, then hit send. I looked you up. The reply came immediately. And? You're not just rich, you're terrifying. A pause, then, I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to help. Elena exhaled slowly. Why me? Because you didn't ask for a shortcut. You asked for $50. That's honesty I haven't seen in years. She sat with that for a moment, then typed again. What happens tomorrow, at 11? You meet someone who can give you a real shot, not charity, opportunity. And if I say no, then you say no. The supplies are yours either way. Elena looked down at Ethan, then back at the phone. I'll be there. The Axiom Tower stood like a monument to ambition, glass and steel towering over the street, reflecting the morning sun in sharp, blinding angles. Elena stood on the sidewalk, clutching Ethan's carrier. She wore her cleanest jeans, a thrifted blazer that didn't quite button, and shoes she'd resoled twice. She looked like someone who didn't belong. But she walked in anyway. The lobby smelled of polished marble and expensive decisions. People in sharp suits moved with purpose, their footsteps echoing against the high ceilings. Elena tightened her grip on Ethan's carrier and walked to the reception desk. A woman with sleek black hair and a warm smile looked up. Can I help you? I'm Elena Brooks. I'm here to see Rebecca. The woman's face lit up immediately. Of course. You're expected. 37th floor, Miss Lynn will meet you at the elevator. Elena blinked. Expected? But the woman was already gesturing toward the elevators with a knowing smile. Elena followed the path, her heart pounding. She stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. The numbers climbed. 37. When the doors opened, a woman in her mid-40s with confident posture and kind eyes greeted her. "Elena, I'm Rebecca Lynn, Nathan's chief of staff. He's in meetings right now, but he asked me to give you a tour and answer any questions." Elena followed her down a hallway lined with glass offices. Everything was clean, efficient, impossibly polished. "I'm not sure what this is," Elena said finally. "This whole thing feels like a setup for something." Rebecca smiled. "Nathan doesn't do setups. He does precision." They stopped at a wide conference room. Rebecca unlocked the door. Inside, it wasn't a workspace. It was a fully furnished nursery. A crib in the corner, a changing table, soft rugs, toys, blackout curtains, a mobile hanging above the crib with tiny stars. Elena's hand flew to her mouth. "He thought it might help you feel more comfortable," Rebecca said softly. Elena stepped inside, her heart aching. The room wasn't expensive for the sake of it. It was thoughtful. Every detail said one thing clearly. Someone had paid attention. She turned back to Rebecca, eyes stinging. "Why?" Rebecca's gaze held hers. "Because he knows what it feels like to walk in alone." Elena didn't know what to say. Rebecca offered a small smile. "Would you like some coffee?" 20 minutes later, Elena sat in a smaller meeting room with a fresh mug in front of her. Ethan slept in the carrier beside her chair. The door opened quietly. She looked up. Nathan walked in. Seeing him in person hit harder than she expected. He looked exactly like the photos, tall, composed, expensive, but somehow more real, tired eyes, slight stubble, a man who had built empires but hadn't smiled in a long time. "Elena," he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "Thanks for coming." She stood awkwardly, unsure of what to do with her hands. "I wasn't sure if I should." "You came anyway. That's what matters." He sat across from her, resting his forearms on the table. His movements were deliberate, controlled, but his eyes weren't cold. They were careful. "Before we talk about anything else, I want to be clear," Nathan said. "You owe me nothing. This isn't a test. I'm not here to rescue you. I don't believe in charity, but I do believe in investing in people." Elena stared at him. "Why me?" Nathan looked down for a moment, then up. "Because I saw someone who didn't ask for a shortcut, who didn't expect anything, who was willing to go without before they let their kids suffer. And someone like that, I'd trust with anything." Elena felt her throat tighten. He slid a folder across the table. "Temporary position, 3 months. Finance audit support. Flexible hours, work on site or remote. Pay is more than fair. And if it's not a fit, you walk. No questions." Elena opened the folder. She blinked at the number on the offer line. It was more than she made in 6 months at her old job. She looked at him. "This is real." "It is." She glanced down at Ethan, still asleep, then back at Nathan. "And the nursery?" He smiled, just barely. "Also real." For a moment, they just sat there in quiet understanding. Finally, Elena nodded once. "I'll take it." Nathan extended his hand across the table. Elena shook it. His grip was firm, steady, the handshake of someone who kept promises. "Welcome to Axiom," he said. And for the first time in 8 months, Elena felt like she could breathe. Elena showed up on her first official day, wearing the only business casual outfit she hadn't already donated during last winter's rent panic. The pants were a little tighter than she remembered, but they buttoned, and that was enough. She kept her hair pulled back, minimal makeup, and slipped into the building with Ethan tucked against her chest in a soft gray sling. No one stared. That surprised her. She half expected side eyes, whispers, or polite but cold smiles, but the woman at the reception desk greeted her with a kind welcome back, as if she'd worked there before. The elevator to the 37th floor opened the moment she approached. Rebecca met her with coffee already in hand. "Ethan's space is ready," Rebecca said, not missing a beat as she walked Elena down the hallway. "And yours is just across the glass partition. It will set you up. Let me know if you run into any trouble." Elena blinked. "That's it?" Rebecca smiled. "That's it." The office they led her into was modest but sleek. A wide desk, dual monitors, and a chair so ergonomic it felt like cheating. Behind her, a glass partition looked into the nursery. Ethan was already cooing at a set of plush blocks on the rug, oblivious to how drastically his world had shifted. Elena sat down slowly, hands hovering over the keyboard. She hadn't worked in over a year. She hadn't touched an internal audit system since her final project before maternity leave, the one that never got finished because the company folded without warning. But as she opened her inbox, reviewed the file directories, and pulled up the company's audit logs, something familiar stirred in her chest. Her brain clicked back into gear. She knew what to look for. Baseline deviations, inconsistencies between submitted and verified invoices, patterns of internal transfers that didn't match project activity. It was like brushing off an old instrument and remembering the tune. She worked quietly for over an hour, only stopping when she noticed someone standing outside her office. Nathan. He wasn't wearing a suit today, just a black button-down, sleeves rolled, slacks. Still looked like he belonged in a magazine. "May I?" he asked. She nodded. "It's your company." He stepped inside, glanced through the glass at Ethan, then turned to her screen. "Settling in okay?" "I haven't broken anything yet," she said. "Give it time." She smirked before catching herself. He looked at the monitor. "You're already in the reconciliations folder." "I figured I'd start with the third quarter reports. There are a few inconsistencies in vendor payouts that don't match project records." Nathan tilted his head. "You found that already?" She shrugged. "They're not well hidden." His expression changed. Not surprised, but something more thoughtful. "Anything feel off to you?" he asked. Elena hesitated. "I've only been in the system an hour, but yeah, either someone's rounding in ways that make no sense, or someone's hiding something in the noise." Nathan's jaw tightened just slightly. "You don't have to dig deep yet. Start surface level." "Right," Elena said, "except I don't do surface level." He nodded once. "Neither do I." Then he turned and walked out. That afternoon, Rebecca brought her lunch without asking. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, iced tea. Elena was mid-bite when a ping came in through the internal messenger. "Nathan Cole. Keep this just between us. If you find something that doesn't look right, bring it directly to me. No one else, not even Rebecca. Understood?" Elena stared at the screen. Elena Brooks. "You expect me to find something?" Nathan Cole. "I expect you to see things others won't." She sat back in her chair and looked through the glass at Ethan. He was curled up asleep with a tiny stuffed fox tucked under his chin. The sun lit up the soft edges of his hair. And for the first time in months, Elena didn't feel like she was running behind the world. She was catching up, or maybe finally stepping into the right place. By her second week at Axiom, Elena had built a rhythm. Mornings started with black coffee, a kiss to Ethan's forehead, and a silent promise to stay ahead of whatever curveball life had cued next. She arrived early, usually before Rebecca, sometimes even before Nathan, and always checked on Ethan first. He had adjusted to the nursery faster than she had to her office. Every day, she'd find him nestled in the corner with a rotating cast of plush animals and an endless supply of organic snacks. Elena, on the other hand, was deep in spreadsheets, audit logs, and data trails. She didn't treat this job like a lifeline. She treated it like a mission. It was the only way she knew how to work, with precision, with care, and with the kind of focus that blocked out everything else. By Friday afternoon, she found it. It wasn't a smoking gun. It never was. But there was a pattern. The same vendor name repeated just enough. The amounts varied, always under internal audit thresholds, but they all shared a strange trait. They were tied to non-existent project codes. Elena leaned closer to her screen, double-checking. The vendor didn't match any real division, and yet the payments had been processed, approved, and quietly buried under a dozen legitimate transactions. "What's up?" "You $200 here. To that $1,400 there." Never enough to set off alerts, but over the course of a fiscal quarter, they added up. Elena copied the vendor code into a private folder and began cross-referencing. The payments weren't going to any standard operating account. They were routed through a third-party holding company in Delaware. Elena recognized the structure instantly. It was a shell. Legal on paper, untouchable without higher-level access. Her stomach tightened. Someone inside Axiom was siphoning funds, slowly, strategically, and they were good at hiding it, too good. She didn't call Rebecca. She didn't loop in finance. She remembered Nathan's message clearly. "Bring it directly to me. No one else." Elena copied the files to a flash drive, encrypted the folder, and slipped it into her bag. Then she messaged him. Elena Brooks, I need 5 minutes. It's important. The reply came within seconds. Nathan Cole, my office, now. Nathan's office looked out over half the city. The windows stretched floor to ceiling, but the curtains were drawn halfway. His desk was surprisingly bare. A single tablet, a leather notepad, a framed photo turned slightly toward the wall. He glanced up when she stepped in. You found something, he said. Not asked. Elena nodded and handed him the drive. It's not confirmed, but it's enough to raise questions. He plugged the drive into the side of his monitor and scrolled. She watched his expression shift, slightly at first, then deeper, more concentrated. You pulled this from Q3? Yes, but it spans earlier quarters. The vendor doesn't exist. The payments route through a shell account in Delaware, masked under smaller invoices. Nathan leaned back, exhaled through his nose. You're right. It's clean. Too clean. Which means whoever did it knows the system, Elena said. Knows it well, Nathan said quietly. Probably helped design the controls. Elena crossed her arms. You already suspected something. He looked at her. I've been watching the numbers drift since late last year, but I couldn't get anyone in finance to chase it. Too subtle, too easy to explain away. So why not bring in an outside firm? He hesitated. I don't know who I can trust. Elena felt that settle in her chest like a weight. She understood that kind of isolation, the kind that came after losing too much and trusting too fast. It hollowed you out, made you second-guess everything, everyone. So what now? She asked. I want you to keep going, Nathan said. Keep digging, but quietly. No names, no email trails. And if anyone asks, you're still reconciling back-end billing records. Elena tilted her head. You're asking me to investigate your own company. I'm asking you to find the truth. She held his gaze. And if I find something ugly? Nathan didn't blink. Then we deal with it. That night, Elena lay awake staring at the ceiling. Ethan curled against her side. She replayed the conversation in her head again and again, trying to shake the unease that clung to it. She wasn't afraid of digging. She wasn't even afraid of what she might find. What worried her most was what she'd already seen in Nathan's face. He already knew. He just didn't want to admit it. The next morning, Elena woke before her alarm. Not to Ethan's cries, but to silence. The kind of silence that felt heavy. She checked his crib. Still asleep, arms overhead, lips pursed into a tiny frown like he was busy negotiating with his dreams. Elena brushed her teeth in the kitchen sink. Her bathroom faucet had started leaking again, but she hadn't called maintenance. She didn't want strangers in her space. Not now, not when she was part of something she barely understood. By 7:30 a.m., she was already at her desk on the 37th floor, reviewing the vendor logs again. This time, she dug deeper. The shell company receiving the siphoned funds had a name, Trinox Solutions LLC. It meant nothing to her, but when she ran the tax ID through an open business registry, the address pinged back to a downtown mailbox drop and listed a single executive agent, no public names, just a firm that specialized in anonymity. Elena sat back, fingers tightening around her coffee mug. This wasn't some lazy embezzlement. Whoever was behind this had designed it to run unnoticed for years. It wasn't greed. It was planned extraction. At 9:06 a.m., Nathan walked into her office without knocking. Trinox, she said before he could sit. He raised an eyebrow. You found it. It's a holding shell. No employees, registered through a legal blind. I traced 4 separate payments this month, routed through different department budgets, all under compliance thresholds. It's sophisticated, precise. Nathan said nothing. He looked tired again, like he hadn't slept. His tie was crooked and his phone was still in his hand. I need you to keep this on your machine only, he said. No backups, no external transfers. Elena nodded, then leaned forward slightly. Nathan, how long have you suspected this? He looked at her, jaw set. Long enough to know whoever's behind it doesn't care about the company or the people working here. You think it's someone close to you? I know it is. Elena hesitated. Why haven't you gone to the board? Because at least 2 of them are compromised. They've already shut down one internal audit. If I make the wrong move, it blows up. Elena's throat tightened. So why me? Nathan finally sat down across from her. Because you don't owe anyone here anything, and you don't scare easy. The way he said it wasn't flattery. It was truth. It felt like someone had finally seen her, not just the mother, not just the woman trying to survive, but her, the sharp, quiet force she used to be before life knocked her down hard enough to leave marks. I want to show you something, Nathan said. He pulled a folder from his coat and slid it across the table. She opened it. A face stared back at her. Mid-40s, clean cut, sharp suit, neutral smile. Victor Hale, Nathan said, Chief Financial Officer. Elena froze. I've heard the name. Isn't he? He was hired 2 years ago after the last CFO resigned unexpectedly. He pushed through changes to our internal systems, gave his own team exclusive oversight over certain divisions, and quietly removed several cross-check protocols. Nobody blinked because he did it under the umbrella of streamlining compliance. Elena closed the folder. You think he's behind it? I know he is, but proving it, that's the hard part. You want me to find the crack? Exactly. Elena nodded slowly. And when I do? Then we move. He stood to leave but paused in the doorway. By the way, he said, Ethan has fans in the nursery. She blinked. What? He gave Rebecca a lecture yesterday when she tried to take his giraffe. It was 4 babbled syllables and a death stare. Elena laughed before she could stop herself. Nathan smiled, a small, worn thing, and then he was gone. So, that afternoon, Elena worked through lunch. She ran more matches, cross-referenced internal memos. She found one email chain where Victor's assistant requested override access to procurement logs under the guise of executive audit preparation. The date matched the first recorded transfer to Trinox. She copied it, encrypted it, and added it to a growing folder labeled Proof. By 5:00 p.m., her eyes burned. She stretched, walked into the nursery, and sank into the soft armchair beside Ethan's crib. He was napping again, his thumb in his mouth, his other hand still gripping the tail of the toy giraffe like a weapon. Elena rested her head against the back of the chair. It was quiet. Safe. She hadn't felt that way in a long time, and that scared her more than anything else. Elena never trusted silence anymore. Not in the nursery, not in an elevator, and definitely not inside corporate systems built to hide the truth, because silence usually meant someone was hiding something. By Monday morning, she had documented 15 payments tied to Trinox Solutions, each routed through a different department, each one signed off by a different lower-level approver. Whoever set it up had built a machine, not a mistake. But Elena wasn't hunting mistakes. She was chasing patterns, and this one had fingerprints. She waited until Ethan was fed and settled in the nursery before stepping into Nathan's office. She didn't knock. He'd stopped expecting her to. He was at his desk, reading a contract. But the moment he saw her face, he pushed it aside. You found more. Yes, and I think I figured out how they're hiding it. She handed him a printed report, each page tagged with highlighted notes and system timestamps. I cross-checked every account routed through Trinox with employee IDs. The payment approvals all come from different logins, but the access point every single time is the same device ID. Nathan finished her thought, which means someone's using ghost credentials, either duplicating or hijacking existing users to sign off. Elena nodded. They're not forging data. They're borrowing real logins. That's why your auditors missed it. Everything checks out at the surface. Except it's all a lie, he said quietly. She watched his face carefully. There was no panic, no outburst, just the stillness of someone adding a final piece to a puzzle he never wanted to see completed. What do you want to do next? She asked. Nathan leaned back in his chair. We need confirmation. Evidence that can't be rewritten or deleted. Someone inside has to know more than they've admitted, and I know where to start. He picked up his phone and dialed. Rebecca, I need Victor Hale scheduled for a check-in tomorrow. Keep it casual, mid-morning, just me and him. Elena stiffened. You're bringing him here. If we spook him, he shuts it all down. If we wait too long, he finds a way to make us the story. He looked at her. You okay with that? I'm the one who walked into the fire. I'm not backing out now. He didn't smile, but something in his eyes softened. You know, he said, most people in your position would have taken the paycheck and played it safe. Elena raised her eyebrows. Yeah, well, I stopped being most people the day I handed a bottle of watered-down formula to my son and pretended it was enough. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, poring over the backup logs of Axiom's internal messaging system. She knew she was getting close, and close was dangerous. She'd seen enough stories. Whistleblowers shut out, data wiped, good people discredited by people more powerful than they'd ever be. And yet, she wasn't afraid of that. She was afraid of failing Ethan, of letting someone like Victor Hale take money that could have gone to research, to development, to employees, to single moms like her who didn't get secret phone calls from billionaires. midnight, her phone buzzed. Nathan Cole. Still awake? Elena Brooks. Obviously. Nathan Cole. You should sleep. Elena Brooks. You should follow your own advice. A pause. Nathan Cole. We're going to get him, but when we do, things are going to get noisy. I want you ready. Elena Brooks. I'm always ready. I just never had backup before. There was no reply. But a few seconds later, a single message came through. Nathan Cole. You do now. Bam. The meeting was set for 10 o'clock a.m. sharp. Elena sat at her desk, her stomach in a slow churn. Ethan was napping peacefully in the nursery behind her, completely unaware that in just a few minutes, a man who had siphoned millions right under this building's nose was about to sit across from the CEO of the company he'd quietly been bleeding dry. Nathan had told her to stay in her office, but to monitor the security feed. She pulled it up on her second monitor, adjusted the angle to the conference room one floor below, and waited. It felt strange being in the room, but not in the room. She wasn't watching a screen. She was watching a moment that would determine the next chapter of both their lives. At exactly 10 o'clock a.m., the door opened. Victor Hale walked in with the ease of a man who believed the world owed him something. He wore a navy blue suit, tailored perfectly, and an expression that hovered between casual boredom and polite confidence. Nathan was already seated. There was no handshake. Elena leaned in closer. Appreciate you making time, Nathan said, voice steady. Of course, Victor replied smoothly. I always make time for the boss. Elena studied his face. She'd seen that expression before, in job interviews, in boardrooms, even in line at daycare pickup. It was the look of someone who already believed they were 3 moves ahead. I've been reviewing some of the quarterly financials, Nathan said, and I've noticed a few oddities. Victor tilted his head. We've streamlined quite a bit this year, maybe too fast, that's on me. Growing pains. Nathan nodded once. Streamlined is one word for it. Elena could feel the tension building, quiet but sharp. There's a vendor, Nathan continued. Trinox Solutions. You're familiar? Victor barely blinked. Doesn't ring a bell. Is that facilities or security? Apparently both, and also research and legal. Interesting for a company no one can seem to contact directly. Victor smiled. Victor, thin. Just slightly. I'll have my team look into it. You are your team, Nathan said. You approve those payments. For the first time, Victor didn't respond right away. Nathan leaned forward. I know what you've been doing. I have the logs, device IDs, login footprints, shell account structures. You've been moving money through dummy vendors and distributing it through ghost pipelines, and you thought no one would notice. Victor's mouth twitched. Elena couldn't tell if it was irritation or amusement. You've been listening to your new pet accountant a little too closely, he said. Elena's stomach dropped. He knew. Nathan didn't flinch. Her name is Elena, and she saw what you were hoping everyone else would ignore. Victor laughed quietly. And let me guess, you two have been bonding late at night over spreadsheets and baby bottles? Elena's pulse spiked. Her hands curled into fists under the desk. Nathan's voice dropped. Calm, controlled. You're done, Victor. No, Victor said, smile returning. You're done. The words hung in the air like a switchblade. Victor reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. He set it on the table between them. "You think you're the only one who's been collecting data?" Victor said. "Come on, Nathan, you're not that naive. The board's tired of your secret projects and PR disasters. They're tired of your moods, your grief. You made the company vulnerable. I just helped it survive." Elena leaned closer to the screen, breath caught. Nathan's jaw tightened. "What's on the drive?" "Emails, messages, financials that look like mismanagement, that suggest you've been diverting funds to cover personal liabilities, which, by the way, we both know you haven't. But perception matters more than truth when you're on the chopping block." Victor stood, buttoning his jacket. "And you're giving it to me because I'm not. I'm warning you. You've got until Friday to resign, quietly. I've already spoken to 2 board members. They'll back me. Walk away. And I won't bring Elena into this. She gets a nice severance and a silent exit. Everyone wins." Elena sat frozen. Nathan stared at him, then quietly, "You underestimate me." "No," Victor said as he walked toward the door. "I understand you better than anyone else in this building. You built something great, but you're too human now, and human doesn't survive here." He walked out without waiting for a response. Elena closed the feed and leaned back in her chair. Her heart was racing, her face felt hot, and all she could think was one thing: they were at war now. And Victor Hale played dirty. Nathan didn't return to his office after the meeting with Victor. For 2 hours, Elena stared at the closed conference room feed, but there was nothing left to see. No movement, no sounds. Just an empty table and the ghost of a conversation that changed everything. She couldn't sit still anymore. She printed out her report. The one with every documented transfer, every ghost approval, every shell account tied to Trinox, and walked down the hallway, heart pounding, and entered Nathan's office without knocking. He was there, back to her, standing at the window with the blinds drawn halfway, watching the city like he was waiting for it to collapse. He didn't turn when she spoke. "I saw everything." Nathan didn't flinch. His voice was low. "You weren't supposed to." Elena walked closer. "You really think I'd just sit at my desk and not watch what happened in that room?" He turned then, slowly. His face was unreadable. "I told you this would get ugly. You didn't say he'd try to destroy you." Nathan looked tired in a way she hadn't seen before. Not physically, not just grief. It was the weariness of someone who had finally confirmed that the worst person he suspected was exactly who he feared, and worse, had the power to get away with it. "He has the board," Nathan said quietly. "Then take the fight public. And put the company at risk? The thousands of people who rely on it? The research we've invested in for years?" Nathan shook his head. "If I move too soon, he spins it. I look like the unstable billionaire clinging to control. You look like the woman I manipulated to cover my own mistakes." Elena's throat tightened. "Then we find proof he can't spin." Nathan studied her face. "You're still in?" "I was in the moment I figured out the math didn't add up." He stepped forward, picked up the report from her hand, and flipped through it in silence. When he finished, he looked up. "I have one last card to play. It's not guaranteed to work, and it's risky." Define risky. "I've been working with someone off the books, former FBI forensic accountant. She's helped me track internal corruption quietly, but if we bring her in now, it won't stay quiet." "And you trust her with the truth?" "Yes." "Then bring her in." Nathan hesitated. "This only works if we all play our part. She'll need full access to the logs, everything you found, and if Victor catches even a whiff of what we're doing, he'll come after you." Elena didn't blink. "Let him try, Them." That night, the safe house wasn't just a contingency plan. It was real. Nathan handed her an access code, a private residence owned under a subsidiary company located in a quiet part of the city, already stocked with essentials. Elena didn't ask how. She didn't need to. She packed lightly. Just clothes for her and Ethan, the laptop, the flash drives, and a copy of the report. Ethan fussed when she moved him into his carrier, but settled as soon as she held him against her chest. He could always tell when she was tense. The apartment was small but clean, safe, quiet. Elena sat Ethan down in the portable crib already waiting in the corner. Then she sank onto the edge of the couch, scrolling through her phone, wondering what came next. She didn't have to wait long. A message came through from Nathan. Nathan Cole. Her name is Keller. She'll call you in 10 minutes. Pick up. Don't tell her anything you can't prove. She's sharp, but she tests people. Elena replied with one word. Elena Brooks. Ready. 10 minutes later, the phone rang. Miss Brooks? The voice on the other end was crisp. Female. All business. Yes, this is Keller. Nathan tells me you're the one who found the break in the flow. I'm the one who noticed. He's the one who knew something was wrong. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. Leave nothing out. Elena took a breath and started talking. She told her everything. How it began with a text to the wrong number. How she never meant to get involved. How she saw the same things others missed. And how that turned into this moment. By the time she finished, Keller was silent. Then came the response. You're good. Better than most auditors I've worked with. And if even half of what you've told me is supported by the files Nathan sent me, we have enough to not only bury Victor, but pull apart everyone protecting him. So what happens next? We verify. Then we bait the trap. Elena was running on adrenaline and black coffee. It had been 36 hours since Victor's threat and less than 12 since her call with Keller. She hadn't told anyone she was in the safe house, not even Rebecca. Nathan had kept it that tight, that contained, but inside Elena was already building a strategy. Keller had been relentless during the call. She wanted timestamps, device IDs, access logs, emails. She wanted everything Elena had, and more. Elena didn't flinch. She handed it all over. Every folder, every encrypted backup, even her personal notes. She knew what was at stake. Now it was time to draw Victor out. Keller had a plan, and it started with a leak. That morning, Elena received a file marked Draft Memo, Internal Realignment, supposedly from HR. It looked official. It said that due to upcoming compliance evaluations, there would be an internal audit review of all executive-level vendor contracts. The memo wasn't real. It was bait. The memo was loaded into the Axiom system under a path Victor's assistant had access to. Then they waited. Nathan didn't sit still. He stayed moving, checking in with Keller, working through secure channels, pressing the remaining allies on the board to stall any vote of no confidence. Rebecca, quiet but loyal, was working 2 phones, pretending nothing had changed. Elena stayed off company messaging, logging in only through VPN from the safe house. By noon, Keller sent a message. Keller, we got a ping. Memo was accessed 3 times in 2 hours, twice from Victor's team, once from Victor's own login. He knows. Elena stared at the screen. Elena Brooks. What's he going to do? Keller. We're about to find out. 3 hours later, Nathan called. His voice was quiet but urgent. He's making his move. What did he do? He submitted an emergency ethics complaint to the board, claimed I bypassed finance, moved funds into personal accounts to bribe an external hire. You. Elena felt her chest tighten. He actually named me. He wants you gone first. It's his pattern. Isolate. Discredit. Remove. He's betting the board won't question it if it comes from internal concern. She sat down hard on the arm of the couch. And will they? Some might, but not all. Not if we go first. Nathan paused. You ready to do this publicly? Elena looked at Ethan, asleep in his crib. She thought about the nights without power, the watered-down formula, the kindness of a stranger that was never really about charity, but about belief. I've never been more ready. The press release hit at 6:43 p.m. Axiom Industries investigates high-level financial misconduct. It was short, precise. Approved by legal. It didn't name Victor Hale directly, but it referenced forensic irregularities, misappropriation of vendor payments, and a full internal audit triggered by external validation. The same minute it went live, Keller's team handed their findings to the state attorney's office. 38 pages of documentation, system logs, verified approvals, email threads that led back to Victor Hale. It was over. Almost. At 8:05 p.m., Elena's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Impressive, Victor said. Elena didn't speak. I underestimated you. I wanted to destroy Nathan. You? You were just a name on a report, an accident, and somehow you became a problem. Funny, Elena said, voice steady. That's how most women in power get noticed, by becoming inconvenient. Victor laughed, a dry sound. You think this ends here? I know it does. He paused. You won't win, Elena. Nathan may crawl out of this. But you're disposable. Always have been. She hung up. She didn't need to hear the rest. That night, Elena watched the news in silence. Ethan slept beside her. Nathan hadn't texted again. Not yet. She knew he was somewhere, bracing for whatever came next. But she felt calm, because she knew what was coming. And this time, she wasn't afraid of it. By morning, everything was different. Elena didn't need to check the news to know it. She felt it in the way her phone buzzed with back-to-back missed calls, in the encrypted messages Keller sent her marked read only, in the way her inbox had transformed overnight from silence into fire. The Axiom press release had gone viral. Finance blogs. Tech media. Even national outlets were buzzing with speculation. A whistleblower, secret audit, executive corruption. One article mentioned a single mother with a background in forensic accounting who uncovered the breach. They didn't name her, but they would, sooner or later. Rebecca texted at 8:02 a.m. Rebecca Lynn, be ready. He's coming for a final meeting. Private. 9 a.m. Top floor, just him and Nathan. Elena stared at the message. Elena Brooks. Should I be there? Rebecca Lynn. Nathan says no. I say yes. Stay back, but don't leave. Elena dressed carefully. Neutral tones, nothing flashy, and slipped into the building through the secondary entrance Keller's team had cleared. She took the private elevator straight to the nursery suite where Ethan was already waiting, his favorite stuffed fox in one hand, his juice cup in the other, babbling to the daycare assistant like she worked for him. At 9:01 a.m., she opened her laptop and pulled up the live internal feed. The conference room was silent. Nathan sat at the end of the table, calm, controlled. Victor entered a moment later, expression blank. Elena watched every detail. His walk, his jaw, the way his hand hovered for just a second too long before pulling out a chair. Let's save each other the posturing, Victor said. I know what this is. Then you know why you're here, Nathan replied. I'm here because you'd rather burn the company to the ground than let someone else fix it. You didn't fix it. You hijacked it. You bled it dry. I kept it alive when you were too consumed by grief to lead. Elena felt her stomach twist. It wasn't the insult. It was how calm he said it, how rehearsed it sounded. You built your whole career off other people's blind spots, Nathan said. You targeted me because you knew I was distracted, but you didn't count on someone else watching. Victor leaned forward. You mean her? The woman you plucked from poverty and handed a desk like some redemption project? You think anyone will believe her over me? I don't need them to believe her, Nathan said. I have the data. I have the paper trail. I have federal agents who signed off on every piece of it. She didn't just notice. She proved it. Elena didn't move. Her hands were cold against the keyboard. Ethan's soft humming behind her grounded her. Victor stood. This is a mistake. No, Nathan said, rising slowly. The mistake was thinking you were untouchable. Rebecca stepped into the frame next, calm as ever. Gentlemen, I believe you've both said what you needed to. Security will escort Mr. Hale out. His badge has already been deactivated. Victor's mouth opened, closed. For the first time, Elena saw something break in his expression. He turned without another word and left. By 10:14 a.m., it was over. Officially, Victor Hale was placed on leave pending investigation. The board, blindsided by the speed of the evidence, voted unanimously to suspend all finance operations related to his tenure. Keller's team had everything they needed to move forward with federal charges. Elena stood at the nursery window, arms crossed, watching the city exhale. A quiet knock made her turn. Nathan. He looked like he hadn't slept again, but he was smiling, just barely. You were right, he said. About what? You don't scare easy. She shook her head. Neither do you. He stepped inside. Ethan spotted him and toddled over, hands raised, a grin wide across his face. Without hesitation, Nathan scooped him up. "How's my partner in crime?" he asked. Ethan babbled something unintelligible but enthusiastic. "I want you to take tomorrow off," Nathan said to Elena. "Rest. Spend time with him. You've earned it." "And the day after tomorrow?" He looked at her. "I want to offer you something permanent, head of internal audit, full autonomy, direct report to me. Build your own team, set your own rules." Elena stared at him. "That's a big job." "So is what you just did." She didn't answer right away, but the answer was already forming. The next morning, Elena didn't wake to an alarm or the low buzz of system notifications. She woke to sunlight bleeding through the cheap blinds in the safe house bedroom and the steady rise and fall of Ethan's breathing beside her. For the first time in months, her body didn't tense the moment her eyes opened. There was no rush, no impending disaster. She let herself stay still for a moment, watching Ethan's tiny hand resting on her chest, curled in sleep. The softness of it grounded her more than any paycheck or title ever had. By the time she made coffee and stepped out onto the apartment's small balcony, her phone was already buzzing. News outlets had picked up the story in full. Victor Hale's face was plastered across headlines in every financial blog she could name. Whistleblower exposes multi-million-dollar fraud at Axiom Industries was trending. Her name hadn't been used officially, but her inbox was filling up with interview requests, LinkedIn messages, and one strange email from a corporate publisher asking if she was considering writing a memoir. She wasn't. She didn't want a spotlight. She just wanted her life back, or maybe, for the first time, to build a new one. At noon, Nathan called. "You holding up?" he asked. Elena glanced at the TV where another panel of talking heads debated how a CEO had taken down his own CFO. "I'm okay. Just weird being the center of a storm I didn't ask for." "You didn't ask for it," Nathan said, "but you chose it. You just didn't realize that until after you were in it." She smiled. "I guess that's true." There was a pause on the line. Then he spoke again, more carefully this time. "I wasn't going to say this over the phone, but I think I'd regret not saying it at all." Elena's breath caught slightly. "I don't know what happens next. For the company, for me, but I know I trust you. And I don't say that easily." She sat down slowly. "I trust you too. More than I ever expected to." Another pause. Longer. "I'd like to see you," he said. "If you're up for it." Elena glanced at Ethan, who was trying to stack plastic cups into a tower that immediately collapsed. "I think we're ready to come back." The reunion wasn't dramatic. It wasn't slow motion or cinematic. It was quiet. Elena stepped into the Axiom lobby carrying Ethan. Both of them dressed simply, neutrally. A few employees nodded at her, but no one stared. Rebecca greeted her with a warm smile and handed her a badge with her new title already printed. Elena Brooks, Director, Internal Audit. Rebecca led her to the elevator. As the doors closed, Elena turned slightly. "Does he know I'm coming up?" Rebecca grinned. "He's been watching the time since 7 a.m. Nathan was standing at the window again when she entered his office. He turned as she stepped in. No tie today, shirt sleeves rolled, eyes tired but brighter than she remembered. "You came back," he said. "I wasn't gone," she answered. He looked at Ethan, who reached his arms out toward him immediately. Nathan stepped forward, picked him up, and held him without hesitation. Elena watched, something deep in her chest tightening and loosening at the same time. "You kept your promise," she said. He glanced at her. "Which one?" "All of them." He nodded, then offered a quiet, sincere reply. "Let's make some new ones." 3 weeks later, Elena found herself walking into a boardroom as the lead. Not someone's assistant, not the girl who stumbled into a job she didn't deserve. Not the charity case or the wrong number story everyone whispered about behind glass walls. She was the woman who exposed a multi-million-dollar fraud, helped save one of the most valuable tech firms in the country, and did it while raising a baby on her own, with a bottle in one hand and a folder full of evidence in the other. And she wasn't scared anymore. The board meeting was short, Keller had already briefed them. Rebecca had prepped the financial summaries. Elena's role was clear, direct, professional, concise. "This is the internal compliance framework moving forward," Elena said, clicking through a clean, minimal slide deck. "Transparent, decentralized, triple audited. No one, not even the CEO, can bypass it without leaving a trail." She didn't look at Nathan when she said it, but she felt him watching. Afterward, one of the senior board members, someone who had voted against Nathan weeks earlier, stopped Elena outside the conference room. "You did something rare," he said. "You did your job so well it made the rest of us look sloppy." Elena smiled. Not out of pride, but out of knowing. "I wasn't trying to look good," she replied. "I was trying to keep my kids safe." The man nodded. "That's even rarer, Matas." That night she stayed late, not because she had to, but because it felt good to work in silence again, to run final checks, to make sure nothing had slipped. The office lights dimmed on auto, but she didn't mind. She was reviewing a vendor log when a familiar voice spoke behind her. "Shouldn't you be home by now?" Elena looked up. Nathan leaned against the doorway, coffee in one hand, the other tucked into his pocket. He wasn't in CEO mode. He was in him mode. Slightly disheveled, quietly observing, showing up without needing a reason. "You told me to build the system," Elena said. "I'm building it." He walked in and set the coffee down next to her. "Come on," he said. "Let's get out of here." She raised an eyebrow. "And go where?" "Anywhere you want." They didn't go far. Just downstairs. Just outside. Just to a quiet street where the city felt a little less like a machine and a little more like something alive. They walked in silence for a while. Elena was the first to break it. "Do you ever think about how weird this all is?" Nathan gave a half smile. "Which part?" "Me. You. This whole thing, starting because I typed a number wrong." "I don't think that was weird," he said. She looked over. "I think it was the first right thing that happened in a long time." Elena exhaled, and for once, didn't argue. They turned the corner. The streetlights flickered on. Ethan was back at the safe house with a sitter Rebecca had arranged. For the first time in months, Elena had a moment that was just hers. Nathan stopped walking, turned to face her. "I meant what I said earlier, about trust." "I know. And I meant what I said about making new promises." Elena held his gaze. "What kind of promises?" "The kind that last," he said quietly. "If you want them to." For a moment, neither of them moved. The city hummed around them, distant sirens, car horns, the hum of a world that never stopped turning. Then Elena smiled, small, genuine. "I think I do." Nathan nodded, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked like someone who wasn't carrying the weight of the world alone. They walked back toward the tower together, side by side. No longer strangers, no longer accidents, just two people who had survived the fire and come out stronger on the other side. The federal indictment came down 3 days later. Elena was in her office when Rebecca knocked softly and stepped inside, tablet in hand, expression carefully neutral. "It's official," Rebecca said. "Victor Hale has been formally charged with wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit securities fraud. The U.S. Attorney's Office just released a statement." Elena set down her coffee. Her hands were steady, but her pulse wasn't. "How bad is it for him?" "Bad enough," Rebecca said. "They're asking for 15 to 20 years, and they're freezing his assets, everything. The penthouse in Soho, the offshore accounts, even the car." Elena leaned back in her chair. She should have felt victorious. She should have felt vindicated. But all she felt was tired. "What about the board?" Elena asked. "Are they going to try to blame Nathan for not catching it sooner?" Rebecca shook her head. "Keller gave them a briefing yesterday, walked them through every step of the investigation, showed them how Victor manipulated the audit trails, how he exploited compliance gaps, how he turned their own systems against them." She paused. By the end of it, 2 board members resigned out of embarrassment. The rest voted unanimously to expand internal oversight. They want you to lead it. Elena blinked. "Me?" "You're the only one they trust now," Rebecca said simply. "You're the one who saw what everyone else missed, and you didn't hesitate to bring it into the light." Rebecca set the tablet on Elena's desk. On the screen was a draft proposal titled Axiom Ethics and Compliance Restructure. Director, Elena Brooks. Brooks. Elena stared at it. Her name, in bold, at the top of a document that would reshape the entire company. "This is real," she whispered. "It's real," Rebecca confirmed. "Nathan wanted me to give it to you first, before the board makes it official. He wanted you to have the choice." Elena picked up the tablet, scrolling through the proposal. Autonomy, resources, a team. The authority to audit anyone, including the CEO himself. It was everything she never knew she wanted, and everything she was terrified to accept. "Can I think about it?" Elena asked. Rebecca smiled. "You can, but not for long. The board meets again Friday. They'll want an answer." After Rebecca left, Elena sat alone in her office, staring at the proposal. Through the glass partition, she could see Ethan in the nursery, stacking blocks with intense concentration, knocking them down, and starting over. She thought about the night she sent that text. The wrong number. The desperate plea. The man who answered when he didn't have to. She thought about how far she'd come. From a dark apartment with no power to an office on the 37th floor. From watered-down formula to a future she could actually plan. But she also thought about what it would cost. The responsibility. The scrutiny. The endless pressure to be perfect. To never slip. To never give anyone a reason to doubt her. Her phone buzzed. Nathan Cole. "Rebecca told me she gave you the proposal. No pressure, but I hope you say yes." Elena smiled despite herself. "Elena Brooks, you're telling me there's no pressure while literally pressuring me." Nathan Cole. "Fair point. Let me rephrase. I hope you say yes because you're the best person for the job, not because I want you to." Elena Brooks. "What if I'm not ready?" Nathan Cole. "You exposed a multi-million-dollar fraud ring in 3 weeks. You're ready." Elena set the phone down and looked at Ethan again. He had successfully built a tower 5 blocks high. He looked at it with pride. Then he knocked it down and laughed. She picked up the phone and typed, "Elena Brooks. I'll do it. On one condition." Nathan Cole. "Name it." Elena Brooks. "I want full autonomy. No interference. Not from you. Not from the board. If I'm going to do this, I do it my way." There was a pause. Then, Nathan Cole. "Done. We'll see." The press conference was scheduled for Monday morning. Nathan had wanted to handle it alone, but Keller insisted that Elena be present. "The story isn't just about the fraud," Keller had said during the prep call. "It's about the fact that a single mother with no resources and no connections brought down one of the most sophisticated embezzlement schemes in corporate history. People need to see you. They need to know you're real." Elena had resisted at first. She didn't want to be the face of this. She didn't want reporters digging into her past, asking about Marcus, about the months she spent struggling, about the night she sent that text. But Nathan had looked at her across the conference table and said something that changed her mind. "You don't owe them your story," he'd said quietly. "But you do owe yourself the credit. You did this. Not me. Not Keller. You. And if you walk away now, someone else will take that credit. And they'll use it to build a career you should have." So she said yes. Now, standing backstage in the Axiom Towers Media Center, Elena adjusted the collar of the navy blazer Rebecca had bought her. It fit perfectly. Professional. Authoritative. Not borrowed. Not secondhand. Hers. Ethan was with a sitter upstairs. Elena had checked on him 3 times in the last hour. He was fine. Happy. Playing with the same stuffed fox he refused to let go of. "You ready?" Nathan asked, stepping beside her. Elena nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be." "You don't have to say much," Nathan said. "I'll handle the questions about the investigation. You just need to confirm your role. Show them you're not a victim. You're the reason this happened." "No pressure," Elena said dryly. Nathan smiled. "You've got this." The stage manager signaled. 2 minutes. Nathan walked out first. The camera flashes were immediate, blinding. Elena heard the murmur of voices, the shuffle of reporters positioning themselves, the click of laptop keys. Then the stage manager gestured to her. Elena took a breath and walked out. The room fell silent. She stood beside Nathan at the podium, hands clasped in front of her, shoulders back, chin up. She looked out at the sea of faces, the cameras, the microphones pointed at her like weapons. Nathan spoke first. "Good morning. 3 weeks ago, Axiom Industries launched an internal investigation into financial irregularities flagged by our compliance team. That investigation uncovered a systematic embezzlement scheme orchestrated by our former CFO, Victor Hale. Over the course of 2 years, Mr. Hale diverted more than $12 million through shell companies and falsified vendor contracts." The room erupted. Questions shouted over each other. Nathan raised a hand. "I'll take questions in a moment, but first, I want to introduce the person who made this investigation possible. Elena Brooks, our Director of Internal Audit." Every camera turned to her. Elena felt her pulse spike, but she didn't flinch. Nathan stepped back slightly, giving her the floor. Elena leaned toward the microphone. "My job was to review financial records," she said. Her voice was steady, clear. "I found patterns that didn't make sense, payments that shouldn't exist, approvals that bypassed protocol. I brought those findings to Mr. Cole. He brought in external investigators, and together we followed the evidence." A reporter in the front row raised her hand. "Miss Brooks, is it true you were hired only a month before discovering the fraud?" Elena met her gaze. "Yes." "And is it true you were previously unemployed?" Elena's jaw tightened. She knew where this was going, the narrative they wanted to spin, the struggling single mother saved by the billionaire. "I was between jobs," Elena said carefully. "I have a background in biochemical research and financial analysis. Mr. Cole hired me because I was qualified, not because I needed saving." Another reporter jumped in. "But you did need help, didn't you? There are reports that you and Mr. Cole met under unusual circumstances, that he provided you with financial assistance before hiring you." The room went silent, waiting. Elena glanced at Nathan. He didn't move, didn't intervene. This was her call. She leaned back into the microphone. "Yes," she said, "I received help. I was in a difficult situation. Mr. Cole helped me. And then he gave me an opportunity. But the work I did here, that wasn't because I owed him. It was because I'm good at what I do. And I don't apologize for accepting help when I needed it, or for earning my place after I got it." The silence held for a beat, then another, and then slowly, a few reporters nodded. One even smiled. The questions continued, but the tone shifted. They weren't trying to tear her down anymore. They were listening. After the press conference, Elena retreated to her office. She closed the door, leaned against it, and exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. Her phone buzzed. "Nathan Cole. You were incredible." Elena Brooks. "I was terrified." Nathan Cole. "Didn't show." Elena smiled. She walked to the window and looked out over the city. From here, she could see the entire skyline, the buildings, the streets, the people moving below like ants. She used to feel small in this city, invisible. Now she felt like she belonged. A knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in." Rebecca stepped inside, holding a thin envelope. "This just arrived," Rebecca said. "Courier delivery, marked private." Elena took the envelope. No return address. Just her name written in precise, angular handwriting. She opened it. Inside was a single handwritten note on expensive stationery. "You played the game better than I expected. Respect where it's due. But don't get comfortable. People like us don't stay down. VH." Elena's blood ran cold. Victor. He was in federal custody. His assets were frozen. His career was over. But he was still playing. She handed the note to Rebecca without a word. Rebecca read it, face darkening. "I'll notify security. And Keller." "Do it," Elena said. "But don't tell Nathan yet. I don't want him distracted." Rebecca hesitated. "Elena." "I can handle this," Elena said firmly. "Victor wants me scared. He wants me looking over my shoulder. I'm not giving him that." Rebecca studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but if anything else happens, anything, you tell me immediately." "I will." After Rebecca left, Elena read the note again. Then she folded it carefully, slipped it into her desk drawer, and locked it. Victor was wrong about one thing. She wasn't like him. She didn't play games. She finished them. That night, Elena sat on the floor of her new apartment, a real apartment, with heat and lights and a lease in her name, watching Ethan sleep in his crib. The place wasn't huge, but it was clean, safe, hers. She'd signed the lease that afternoon, paid the deposit with her first paycheck from Axiom. It wasn't the penthouse, it wasn't luxury, but it was stability. And that was worth more than anything. Her phone buzzed. Nathan Cole. You moved in? Elena Brooks. Just finished unpacking. Well, I put 3 boxes in the corner and called it done. Nathan Cole. Progress. Elena Brooks. Baby steps. There was a pause. Then, Nathan Cole. Can I come by? Elena looked at the apartment. The half-assembled furniture, the pile of laundry she hadn't folded yet, the stack of takeout containers she'd been too tired to throw away. Elena Brooks. It's a mess. Nathan Cole. I don't care. Elena Brooks. Give me 20 minutes. Nathan Cole. 10. Elena scrambled. She shoved the laundry into the closet, tossed the takeout, lit a candle that smelled vaguely like vanilla, and changed out of her sweatpants into jeans that were only slightly wrinkled. 14 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. She opened it. Nathan stood in the hallway, holding a bottle of wine and a bag from the Italian place down the street. I brought dinner, he said. Hope you haven't eaten. Elena stepped aside. Come in. He walked in, set the wine and food on the counter, and looked around. It's nice, he said. It's small. It's yours, he corrected. That makes it perfect. Elena smiled despite herself. They sat on the floor because she didn't have a table yet and ate pasta straight from the containers. It was quiet, comfortable, easy. I got a note today, Elena said after a while. From Victor. Nathan's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. What did it say? That he respects me and that people like him don't stay down. Nathan set his fork down. He's trying to get in your head. I know. Did it work? Elena looked at him. No, because I'm not the person he thinks I am. I'm not playing his game. I already won. Nathan held her gaze. Then he smiled. Small. Genuine. Yeah, he said quietly. You did. Over the next 2 weeks, Elena built her team. She interviewed 12 candidates, chose 4, all of them sharp, all of them hungry, all of them willing to challenge the status quo. She restructured the audit protocols, closed the loopholes Victor had exploited, installed triple verification systems that made it nearly impossible for anyone, CEO included, to move money without a trail. The board approved every recommendation, unanimously, and slowly, quietly, Axiom began to heal. But the real victory came on a Thursday afternoon, when Elena received an email from the U.S. Attorney's Office. Subject: USA Victor Hale. Plea agreement. Rejected. Elena opened it, heart pounding. Victor had tried to negotiate a plea deal, offered to testify against unnamed co-conspirators in exchange for a reduced sentence. The prosecution had rejected it. They had enough evidence. They didn't need his cooperation. He was going to trial, and he was going to lose. Elena closed the email and leaned back in her chair. It was over, really, truly over. She picked up her phone and texted Nathan. Elena Brooks. They rejected his plea. Nathan Cole. I know, Keller just called. Elena Brooks. It's really over. Nathan Cole. Almost. Elena Brooks. Almost? Nathan Cole. There's one more thing. Nathan called an all-hands meeting the following Monday. The entire company gathered in the main atrium, every employee, every department, over 800 people. Elena stood off to the side, holding Ethan, who was wide awake and fascinated by the crowd. Nathan stepped onto the small stage at the front of the room. He didn't use notes. He didn't need them. 3 weeks ago, Nathan began, this company faced a crisis. Not a market crisis. Not a product crisis. A crisis of trust. Someone we relied on betrayed that trust. And for a while, It looked like that betrayal might destroy everything we'd built. The room was silent. But it didn't, Nathan continued, because one person refused to look the other way. One person saw what was wrong and had the courage to say it out loud, even when it was risky, even when it was uncomfortable, even when no one would have blamed her for staying silent. He turned and looked directly at Elena. Elena Brooks didn't just save this company. She reminded all of us what integrity looks like, and I want to make sure everyone here knows that. The applause started slowly, then it grew. Louder, stronger. Elena felt her face flush. She looked down at Ethan, who clapped his tiny hands together, mimicking the crowd. When the applause finally died down, Nathan spoke again. Effective immediately, Elena Brooks is not just our Director of Internal Audit. She's also our Chief Compliance Officer. She reports directly to me, and she has full authority to investigate anyone in this building, including me. More applause. Nathan stepped down from the stage and walked over to her. "You okay?" he asked quietly. Elena nodded, eyes stinging. "Yeah, I'm okay." "Good," Nathan said, "because this is just the beginning." That night, Elena sat in her apartment, Ethan asleep in the next room, and opened her laptop. She pulled up the first message she'd ever sent Nathan, the one that started everything. "Danny, I'm so sorry to bother you again. I need $50 for formula. Ethan's almost out. I get paid Friday. I'll pay you back, I promise. Please." She stared at it for a long time. Then she opened a new document and began to type. Not a memoir, not a tell-all, just a letter to herself, to the woman she used to be. "You made it. You didn't think you would, but you did. And you didn't just survive. You rebuilt. You became someone you're proud of, someone Ethan will be proud of. Don't forget that. Don't forget how far you've come. And don't ever let anyone make you feel small again. You're not small. You never were. You were just waiting for the right moment to stand up. This was it. E." She saved the document, closed the laptop, and for the first time in years, she slept without fear. 6 months later, Elena stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of her new office on the 42nd floor, watching the sun rise over the city. The skyline was painted in shades of orange and pink, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The office was hers. Not borrowed. Not temporary. Hers. The nameplate on the door read Elena Brooks, Chief Compliance Officer, and beneath it, in smaller letters, Axiom Industries. She'd been in the role for 4 months now, long enough to build systems that actually worked, long enough to earn the respect of people who once looked through her like she was invisible, long enough to stop second-guessing every decision she made, but not long enough to forget where she came from. Her phone buzzed on the desk behind her. Nathan Cole. "Trial starts today. Thought you'd want to know." Elena turned from the window and picked up her phone. Elena Brooks. "I know. Keller texted me an hour ago. Are you going?" Nathan Cole. "No, but she'll keep us updated. You want to be there?" Elena thought about it. Part of her wanted to see Victor in front of a judge, answering for what he'd done. But another part of her, the part that had finally found peace, didn't need that closure. Elena Brooks. "No, I've already moved on. He should too." Nathan Cole. "Good answer." She set the phone down and glanced at the photo on her desk. It was new, taken just last week. Elena and Ethan at Central Park. He was sitting on her shoulders, laughing, pointing at something out of frame. She was looking up at him, smiling in a way she didn't recognize at first. It took her a moment to realize what it was. She looked happy. Really, genuinely happy. Not surviving, not pretending, just happy. A soft knock on the door pulled her from her thoughts. "Come in." Rebecca stepped inside, tablet in hand. "Morning. You've got the board meeting at 10. Compliance review. They'll want updates on the new audit protocols." "I'm ready," Elena said. Rebecca smiled. "I know you are. But there's something else." She paused. "Nathan wanted me to ask if you're free for lunch today. He said it's important." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Important how?" "He didn't say. Just that he wants to talk. Off campus, somewhere quiet." Elena nodded slowly. "Tell him yes." "D?" The restaurant Nathan chose was small, tucked into a side street in the West Village. Not flashy, not expensive, just quiet and warm, with brick walls and soft lighting. Elena arrived first. She slid into the booth by the window and ordered water, her mind racing through possibilities. Was this about work? About the trial? About something else entirely? Nathan walked in 5 minutes later. He was wearing a dark sweater and jeans. No tie. No suit. He looked more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "Thanks for coming," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "You made it sound mysterious," Elena said. "I'm intrigued." Nathan smiled. "I wanted to talk to you. Away from the office. Away from everything." "Okay," Elena said slowly. "I'm listening." He leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. "You've been at Axiom for 7 months now. You've rebuilt our entire compliance infrastructure. You've earned the respect of the board, the staff, everyone. You've done more in half a year than most people do in a decade." Elena felt her chest tighten. "Is this a 'you're doing great but' conversation? Because if you're about to tell me I'm working too hard—" "No," Nathan interrupted gently. "This is a 'you've earned the right to choose what comes next' conversation." Elena blinked. "I don't understand." Nathan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He slid it across the table. Elena unfolded it. It was a contract, but not a job offer. It was an equity agreement. Axiom Industries. Executive equity. Grant recipient. Elena Brooks shares, 2% of total company equity. Vesting period, immediate. Elena's hands trembled as she read it. 2%. Of a company worth billions. She looked up at Nathan, eyes wide. "What is this?" "It's yours," Nathan said simply. "No strings, no conditions. You've earned it." "Nathan, I can't." "You can," he said firmly. "And you should. You saved this company. You didn't just find the fraud. You rebuilt trust. You made us better. And I want you to have a stake in what we're building." Elena stared at the paper, her vision blurring slightly. "This is too much." "It's not enough," Nathan said quietly. "But it's a start." She set the paper down, her hands still shaking. "Why?" Nathan looked at her for a long moment. "Because you deserve it, and because I want you to stay. Not because you need the job, but because you want to." Elena's throat tightened. She'd spent so long fighting just to survive, just to keep her head above water. She'd never imagined a moment like this, a moment where someone saw her worth and wanted to invest in it. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say yes," Nathan said, "or say no. But whatever you choose, know that it's your choice. Not mine. Not anyone else's. Yours." Elena looked down at the contract again, then back at Nathan. "Yes," she said. "I say yes." Nathan smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, it was a full, genuine smile that reached his eyes. That evening, Elena walked into her apartment carrying takeout and a bottle of sparkling cider. Ethan was with the sitter, giving her a rare hour of quiet. She set the food on the counter and pulled out her phone. She scrolled to a contact she hadn't touched in months. Danny, her cousin, the person she'd meant to text that night. She stared at his name for a long time. Then she started typing. "Elena Brooks. Hey, I know we haven't talked in a while. I just wanted to say thank you for helping me when I needed it. I know it wasn't easy for you, and I know I didn't always make it easy. But I'm doing okay now. Better than okay. I wanted you to know that." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. 3 minutes later, her phone buzzed. "Danny. Glad to hear it, E. Proud of you." Elena smiled. It wasn't much, but it was enough. She poured herself a glass of cider and walked to the window. The city stretched out below her, alive and glowing. She thought about the night she sent that text. The wrong number that became the right one. The stranger who became something more. Her phone buzzed again. Nathan Cole. "You still up?" Elena Brooks. "Yeah, just got home." Nathan Cole. "Can I call you?" Elena Brooks. "Sure." Her phone rang a moment later. Hey, she said, answering. Hey, Nathan replied. His voice was warm, familiar. I wanted to make sure you were okay. After today. It was a lot. I'm okay, Elena said. More than okay, actually. I'm just processing. Good, Nathan said. You deserve to process. You deserve to take a breath. Elena sat down on the couch, tucking her legs beneath her. Can I ask you something? Anything. That night, when I sent you that text, why did you answer? There was a pause. Then Nathan spoke quietly. Because I saw someone who needed help. And I'd spent 15 years telling myself I didn't need anyone. That I didn't owe anyone anything. But when I read your message, I realized something. Helping you wasn't about you. It was about me. About the person I wanted to be. The person I used to be before I lost my sister. Elena's breath caught. You never told me about her. Lily, Nathan said. She was 12. Pneumonia. We couldn't afford the antibiotics. I tried everything, begged everyone, and she died anyway. I'm so sorry, Elena whispered. I built this company so I'd never feel that powerless again, Nathan continued. But somewhere along the way, I forgot why I built it. I forgot that power isn't just about what you can control. It's about what you can give. And when you sent that text, you reminded me. Elena closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. I didn't remind you of anything. You were already that person. You just needed a reason to show it. Maybe, Nathan said softly. But you gave me that reason. They sat in silence for a moment, the line open between them, neither one needing to fill it with words. Finally, Nathan spoke again. I want to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Okay? What do you want, Elena? Not what you think you should want. Not what's practical. What do you actually want? Elena thought about it, really thought about it. I want Ethan to grow up knowing he's safe, she said. I want to build something that lasts, something that matters. And I want... She hesitated. I want to stop being afraid that it's all going to disappear. It's not going to disappear, Nathan said. Not unless you let it. And what about you? Elena asked. What do you want? Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Then, I want to stop living like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I want to trust people again, and I want you in my life, not just as a colleague, as someone I can count on, someone who counts on me. Elena's heart pounded. Nathan, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I just wanted you to know, whatever this is, whatever it becomes, I'm in it, for as long as you want me to be. Elena wiped her eyes, smiling through the tears. I want you to be. Good, Nathan said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. Then that's settled. 3 weeks later, the verdict came in. Guilty on all counts, Victor Hale was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. No parole, no deals. Elena didn't watch the sentencing, but Keller sent her a message afterward. Keller. He looked smaller than I remembered, like he'd already started disappearing. Justice feels good, doesn't it? Elena Brooks. It does. But closure feels better. That night, Elena hosted a small dinner at her apartment. Just Nathan, Rebecca, Keller, and Ethan. They ordered pizza, drank wine, laughed about things that had nothing to do with work or trials or fraud. At one point, Ethan toddled over to Nathan and handed him the stuffed fox he'd been carrying around for months. For me? Nathan asked, crouching down. Ethan nodded solemnly. Nathan took the fox, holding it carefully. I'll take good care of him. Ethan patted Nathan's cheek with his tiny hand, then toddled back to Elena. Rebecca smiled. I think you've been officially adopted. Nathan looked at Elena. She looked back, and something passed between them. Something unspoken, but understood. 1 year later, Elena stood on the stage at a women's leadership conference, holding a microphone, looking out at a room full of faces. I didn't plan to be here, she began. A year and a half ago, I was unemployed, broke, and desperate. I sent a text asking for $50 to buy baby formula, and I sent it to the wrong number. The audience laughed softly. That wrong number changed my life, Elena continued. Not because someone gave me money, but because someone saw me, really saw me, and believed I was capable of more than I believed about myself. She paused, looking down at her notes. Then she set them aside. I'm not here to tell you that if you work hard enough, everything will be okay. Because that's not always true. Sometimes you work hard and things still fall apart, but I'm here to tell you that when someone offers you a hand, take it. And when you finally get your footing, reach back and offer your hand to someone else. That's how we survive. That's how we win. The applause was immediate and thunderous. After the speech, Elena found Nathan waiting in the hallway. You were incredible, he said. I was nervous, Elena admitted. Didn't show, she smiled. You always say that. Because it's always true. They walked out of the building together, side by side. Ethan was with the sitter, and for once, Elena had a few hours to just be. I got an offer today, Elena said as they walked. Harvard Business School. They want me to guest lecture next semester on corporate ethics and whistleblower protections. Nathan stopped walking. Elena, that's amazing. I haven't said yes yet. Why not? Because I don't know if I'm ready to be the person everyone looks to for answers. Nathan turned to face her. You already are that person. You just haven't admitted it yet. Elena looked at him. Really looked at him. The man who answered a text he didn't have to. The man who gave her a chance when no one else would. The man who became her partner, her friend, and something more she was still figuring out. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For seeing me, when I couldn't see myself. Nathan smiled. Thank you for letting me. 2 years after the text, Elena sat in her office, looking at a framed copy of that first message. Nathan had it printed and framed as a gift. She'd laughed when he gave it to her, but she'd hung it on the wall anyway, because it was a reminder, not of where she'd been, but of where she was going. Ethan toddled into the office, followed by Rebecca. Sorry, Rebecca said. He insisted. It's okay, Elena said, scooping him up. What's up, buddy? Ethan pointed at the window. Big. Yeah, Elena said, looking out at the city. It's big, but we're bigger. Her phone buzzed. Nathan Cole. Dinner tonight? My place. I'm cooking. Elena Brooks. You're cooking? Should I be worried? Nathan Cole. Probably, but come anyway. Elena smiled. Elena Brooks. We'll be there. She set the phone down, held Ethan close, and looked out at the skyline one more time. She'd started with nothing, a dark apartment, an empty fridge, a desperate plea sent to the wrong number. And now she had everything that mattered, a career she'd earned, a future she'd built, a family she'd chosen. The wrong number had become the right life, and she wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready. That night, Elena walked into Nathan's penthouse with Ethan on her hip. The space was warm, filled with the smell of something burning slightly. I warned you, she called out. Nathan emerged from the kitchen holding a spatula, looking sheepish. Okay, so cooking might not be my strength. Might not? Elena laughed. What did you do? I attempted pasta. It's now classified as a science experiment. Elena set Ethan down and walked to the kitchen. She looked at the pot, then at Nathan. Order pizza? She suggested. Already done, Nathan admitted. It'll be here in 20 minutes. They sat on the floor of the living room, Ethan between them, playing with blocks. The pizza arrived. They ate straight from the box. It was simple, easy, perfect. At one point, Ethan fell asleep, curled up against Elena's side. Nathan looked at them both. I never thought I'd have this. Have what? This. Family. People I care about who care about me back. Elena reached across and took his hand. You have it now. Nathan squeezed her hand gently. What happens next? Elena smiled. I don't know, but whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. And for the first time in her life, Elena wasn't afraid of the future, because she wasn't facing it alone. She had Ethan, she had Nathan, she had herself, and that was more than enough. 3 years after the text, Elena stood in the conference room on the 42nd floor, presenting to the board. But this time, she wasn't just reporting, she was proposing. I want to create a scholarship fund, Elena said, for single parents trying to re-enter the workforce, Full childcare support, job training, mentorship, everything I didn't have when I needed it most. The board members looked at each other. And the funding? One of them asked. I'll contribute a portion of my equity, Elena said, and I'm asking Axiom to match it. Nathan, sitting at the head of the table, didn't hesitate. Approved. The board voted unanimously in favor. After the meeting, Nathan found Elena in her office. You didn't have to do that, he said. Yes, I did, Elena replied, because someone did it for me, and now it's my turn to pass it on. Nathan nodded. You know what that text said? The one you sent me? Of course. It said, please. You asked for help, and you said, please. Most people don't do that anymore. They demand. They expect. But you asked. And that's why I answered. Elena felt tears prick her eyes. I'm glad you did. So am I, Patson. 5 years after the text, Elena sat on a park bench, watching Ethan play on the swings. He was 5 now. Bright, curious, happy. Nathan sat beside her, his hand resting gently on hers. He's getting big, Nathan said. Too big, Elena agreed. I keep telling him to stop growing. He doesn't listen. Nathan smiled. Kids never do. Elena leaned her head against his shoulder. Thank you. For what? For everything. For answering that text. For believing in me. For being here. Nathan turned to look at her. You don't have to thank me for loving you, Elena. Her breath caught. He'd never said it out loud before. I love you too, she whispered. They sat there in silence, watching Ethan laugh and play, the sun setting behind them, painting the sky in shades of gold. And Elena realized something. She'd spent so long surviving that she'd forgotten how to live. But now she was living, really, truly living, and it was better than she ever imagined. 10 years after the text. Elena stood in front of a crowd of 500 people at the Axiom Foundation's annual gala. Ethan, now 10, sat in the front row, dressed in a suit that was slightly too big. When I started this foundation, Elena said, I wanted to make sure that no one would ever have to choose between feeding their child and keeping the lights on. Because I've been there. I know what that feels like. And I know what it's like to have someone reach out their hand when you're drowning. She paused, looking at Nathan, who stood off to the side. This foundation has helped over 2,000 families in the last 5 years. And we're just getting started. The applause was deafening. After the speech, Ethan ran up to her, wrapping his arms around her waist. You were awesome, Mom. Thanks, buddy, Elena said, ruffling his hair. Nathan walked over, smiling. He's right. You were. Elena looked at them both. Her son, her partner, her family. We were, she corrected. We did this together. And as they walked out into the night, hand in hand, Elena thought about that text one more time. The wrong number that became the right everything. She'd asked for $50, and she'd received a life. The end.